I had told him I didn't. The ways of God were mysterious, there was good and evil in all of us, ours not to reason why, hacha, ro di dao. Most of what I told him were things I'd learned in the Church of Praise Jesus, the Lord is mighty, Hal nodding the whole time and looking sort of exalted. He could afford to nod, couldn't he? Yes. And look exalted, too. There was a deep sadness on his face, he was shaken, all right, I never doubted it, but there were no tears this time, because he had a wife to go home to, his companion to go home to, and she was fine. Thanks to John Coffey, she was well and fine, and the man who had signed John's death warrant could leave and go to her. He didn't have to watch what came next. He would be able to sleep that night in his wife's warmth while John Coffey lay on a slab in the basement of County Hospital, growing cool as the friendless, speechless hours moved toward dawn. And I hated Hal for those things. Just a little, and I'd get over it, but it was hate, all right. The genuine article. Now I stepped into the cell, followed by Dean and Harry, both of them pale and downcast. Are you ready, John? I asked. He nodded. Yes, boss. Guess so. All right, then. I got a piece to say before we go out. You say what you need to, boss. John Coffey, as an officer of the court. I said it right to the end, and when I'd finished, Harry Terwilliger stepped up beside me and held out his hand. John looked surprised for a moment, then smiled and shook it. Dean, looking paler than ever, offered his next. You deserve better than this, Johnny, he said hoarsely. I'm sorry. I be all right, John said. This the hard part, I be all right in a little while. He got up, and the St. Christopher's medal Melly had given him swung free of his shirt. John, I ought to have that, I said. I can put it back on you after, if you want, but I should take it for now. It was silver, and if it was lying against his skin when Jack Van Hay switched on the juice, it might fuse itself into his skin. Even if it didn't do that, it was apt to electroplate, leaving a kind of charred photograph of itself on the skin of his chest. I had seen it before. I'd seen most everything during my years on the mile. More than was good for me. I knew that now. He slipped the chain over his head and put it in my hand. I put the medallion in my pocket and told him to step on out of the cell. There was no need to check his head and make sure the contact would be firm and the induction good, it was as smooth as the palm of my hand. You know, I fell asleep this afternoon and had a dream, boss, he said. I dreamed about Dell's mouse. Did you, John? I flanked him on the left. Harry took the right. Dean fell in behind, and then we were walking the Green Mile. For me, it was the last time I ever walked it with a prisoner. Yep, he said. I dreamed he got down to that place Boss Howell talked about, that Mouseville place. I dreamed there was kids, and how they laughed at his tricks. My. He laughed himself at the thought of it, then grew serious again. I dreamed those two little blonde-headed girls were there. They us laughin', too. I put my arms around them and there us no blood comin' out they hair and they us fine. We all watch Mr. Jingles roll that spool, and how we did laugh. Fit to bus, we was. Is that so? I was thinking I couldn't go through with it, just could not, there was no way. I was going to cry or scream or maybe my heart would burst with sorrow and that would be an end to it. We went into my office. John looked around for a moment or two, then dropped to his knees without having to be asked. Behind him, Harry was looking at me with haunted eyes.